There we go. Live. There we go. Hey, that's it. AM Comics and Coffee with Brett, Matt, and Tank, who is eating dinner because it's nighttime down in South Africa. And I know it says we have a special guest. He's on his way, but the dude is the the dude is handling a phone call, but he'll be on. He'll be on soon. So until then, it'll just be Matt and me. He's shooting the shit, man. Really, that's good enough.
Oh yeah, more or less, at least.
Yeah, I mean, you and I don't really seem to have too much trouble carrying a show on our own.
No, unless there's nothing to talk about. That it's just wow, we're boring.
You and I don't really seem to have too much. Oops, I almost had an echo going there.
Yep.
I gotta. Yeah, I almost had that happen to me over a stream on Piper's channel. Actually, I did. I take that back. I did have that happen to me on a stream on Piper's channel because I had the window open and I did not take notice that I did not turn off the sound, and so there was this really bad echo going through. I ended up making an ass of myself there. Well, no, not an ass. I made a fool of myself big time there. Or that day. I mean, if we fixed it pretty quickly, but you know, not exactly the best as first impression.
Yeah.
Still, though, I mean, like that was a good stream I was on, though.
Oh, it was.
Yeah, Piper's good. Piper's good people.
Yeah, she is. It's too bad how Revenant is treating her.
The parasite, fuck her.
Yep. I'm sure that it's her husband takes that in the same way Stannis does in the books with his wife as a grim sort of duty.
Oh my lord. Didn't we say we wanted to stop talking about her so that we could make her more irrelevant?
Yeah, but it doesn't hurt every once in a while.
Well, to be fair though, when Piper unloaded on her, she had it coming that time.
Yep.
Yeah, she did. That was, even for her, that was low.
Yes, it was.
And go
on.
Do what?
Go on.
I'm not going.
Okay. Well, that tweet last night with Jeff Holiday saying that a girl with a dick is better. That just throws more layers on the Gog's joke about how the Wiccan Jeff Holiday is less gay than the real Jeff Holiday.
And that's just him playing a character.
Wow, it's December and people are still talking about Jeff Holiday.
I guess. Mike says, I am still forcing ignorance for the whole drama myself. I think he must be referring to the shit with Piper. It's probably for the best, Mike. You are really not. Like, I mean, like, I like Piper, but you're not missing anything.
Or it could be that whole internet movement thing that's going on.
That is also possible.
I'm actually very glad we're going with alternate routes than the typical YouTubers.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's just, it's kind of interesting. I just noticed something. It seems like our stream sort of becomes the jumping off point for people.
What?
No, it just seems like after people end up on our stream, they end up on other people's streams.
Perhaps. I mean, that's assuming that people are watching our show, but
Yeah, that's I don't know. It's still that's not bad. I mean, like if we're how someone gets discovered, that's not a bad thing.
well, it's kind of douchey if they're watching us and they're not acknowledging us.
I guess so. Yeah. All right. So
So I saw this video of this Avengers Endgame trailer parody where everyone is Deadpool.
that's that kind of I don't know. That's well, that sounds like that you can't really have an end game if it's if it's all Deadpool though.
Well, it's it's a parody one, and I think whoever made it used a voice changer for it to, to give more new dialogue to it, to give it more Deadpool dialogue, such as when when the part where Tony Stark is talking to the Iron Man mask. Instead, it's Deadpool talking to Wolverine's mask.
That is funny.
Remove the Peggy Carter picture from the Pocket Watch. Replace it with Hugh Jackman.
Yeah. Mike says as a Google Dolls song says I'm still here. Isn't that John on Resnick song he made for Treasure Planet he's quoting?
Maybe.
I kind of am I the one who thinks that Treasure Planet is actually very underrated in the Disney canon?
I don't think you are, which is why I'm surprised it's underrated.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, like it's okay. It's not perfect, but it's got issues. But as far as like an adaptation of Treasure Island goes, it's actually pretty. It actually found a way to put a fresh spin on it. I mean, okay, you can criticize it for some things, like the whole sailing ships in space thing. I can see what they were going. Look, I can kind of see what they were going for with their aesthetic. This would have been a case where they should have been ripping off Harlock as much as they could. At least then it would have looked a little bit. The aesthetic would have fitted more. Matt,
What?
yeah. I mean,
still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. Did you hear that? Like I said, like this, they should have kept ripping. Treasure Planet's a case where Disney should have been ripping off Harlock as much as they could have, because then it would have had a better visual aesthetic, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, that kind of cut out on me. So yeah, they probably should have, but they didn't, which is strange because they ripped off Kimbo the White Lion for The Lion King.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, nothing.
I mean,
they helped produce Kimba.
I don't know. Seriously, they did?
I think so.
Yeah, weird. But yeah, I mean, like, I'm kind of I don't know. I mean, I don't know about Kimba the White Lion. I mean, it's possible. It could also be coincidence, but yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking. I mean, like that movie, Treasure Planet, probably would have been a much better movie with a Harlock style aesthetic. Because I think that was what a lot of people had issues with. Like, you have a sailing ship in space.
It's really funny how you can't take any kind of artistic license like that.
Yeah, yeah, science fiction's about suspending disbelief, but you know, that's probably asking a bit too much.
Yeah, but you also have Marvel superheroes who can go to the moon without spacesuits.
Yeah, but like I said, if we're talking about Captain Marvel, I mean, like Power Cosmic and shit. Like, sure, you can kind of see it. Oh yeah, but hell, even in Guardians of the Galaxy, they sort of found a way around that. It seemed to suggest that they had like little force fields that kept that, so they weren't exposed to the vacuum.
Yeah, the thing about that is that was James Gunn putting in science fiction to explain some of that crazy stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they were also trying to say in the comics they say that there's a habitable zone on the moon as well.
Mike Whitaker says Treasure Planet has a Don Bluth like styles.
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah, in the animation style, yeah, it's kind of hard not to see it now that I think about it.
Yeah, and just to think that there are people who say that his animation style is bad, aka the Killers people.
Oh yeah, fuck them. They're just like, they do not know what they're talking. Those are people who don't know what they're talking about.
Nope. But so many people give Joss Whedon credit for Titan AE, but it's a Don Bluth movie.
Oh, yeah, actually, I think Mike brought up Titan AE in the comments. Yeah, it's just like I don't think he was even one of the principal script writers. I think he was just brought in for just to sort of tighten up some of the bits.
Let's see. There were 3 writers, and Joss Whedon was the one who was put on there last.
Yeah, so he wasn't even the first guy.
Nope, he also didn't come up with the story.
He was brought in at the 11th hour to just... Actually, it kind of makes sense. I think he used to work as a... I think he used to work as a script doctor.
Yeah. Oh, hey, it was so long ago that Janeane Garofalo had a career.
Seriously?
Yeah.
My God. Wow.
Yeah, she went off the rails really quickly. You see, you gotta face the left-leaning crazy. You just can't show it all at once. You there? Hey, Brett, you there?
Sorry about that. I got dumb.
What?
Sorry. I didn't get dropped. I got stupid, man. I was gonna try and put in my putting in the playlist channel, and then I got stupid and tried signing out to get back in my account to do it. I'll just do it from my phone.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, where was it before Brett just had another one of his brilliant ideas?
I don't know because he cut out.
It was something about Joss Whedon's script doctor Janeane Garofalo.
Oh yeah, was that what happened? Because I thought it was my computer was going crazy again.
Yeah. No, you're not going crazy, Matt. I'm just
Okay.
your friend is just it's just an idiot.
Yeah, I kind of figured that sometimes,
Mhm.
But yeah, you gotta space out the left leaning crazy. Just gotta just have the right amount of time in between. And that's one thing that he never learned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the people, one of my mutuals on Twitter just asked an interesting question.
Hmm.
What kind of shows did you used to watch as kids and wish were still showing on TV? You know, if I was, I wish they bring back some of those '90s cartoons. Those were good shows.
Oh yeah, I mean, Exo Squad was a show that got cut off as a cliffhanger. They were going to go from what it looked like, they were going to have once every once the Earth was retaken, they're going to go and fight some alien invaders.
Yeah, I mean that would have been. Yeah, I just linked to the tweet right now. But yeah, I'd love them to bring back pretty much. Fuck. I'd love this. I wish Darkwing Duck was still on. I wish Johnny Bravo was still on. I wish. I. Yeah, just pretty much all those '90s shows, all those '90s cartoons, because those were great. Like, I unironically think cartoons have not been better since the '90s. It's just it was so. I mean, compared to like say the '80s, I mean they all kind of had like a similar. They all had like a similar aesthetic.
Yeah, they were more coordinated.
Yeah, and that's because in '80s cartoons they were glorified toy advertisements.
And they were sent over to Japan to animate too.
Japan and Korea, I think.
Yeah. Well, shift over to Japan, which shifted over to Korea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but yeah, with '90s cartoons, no two shows looked alike.
No, which is really cool.
Hmm.
Although, something funny? Looking at the character designs for Exo Squad, the SJWs like to say that people I like to sit down talk the '90s, but they're bringing back the hairstyle.
Technically, that hairstyle began with anime. Because I was watching I've been you know who SF Debris is, right, Matt?
Yep.
He's actually done a few reviews on Exo Squad, and he said like these were kind like this was a show that was more inspired by anime. It was like one of the first. It was like one of the first Western cartoons to have a more anime aesthetic.
Which is funny because it was also a show designed to sell toys.
Well, dude, when you look at it, is it hard to see? You got mecha, you got aliens. This thing looks like what's it? You know, I guarantee, like the thing with like the fuck. What are those evolved humans?
Neo Sapiens.
Yeah, they look. I don't know. There's something about their design makes me think of the aliens from the first Star Blazers. I mean, Spaceship Battle Yamato, Space Battleship Yamato. Space. Is it spaceship or a space battleship? Say
well,
what?
Actually, it's funny because there's a bit of a dispute over that because it's supposed to be translated as space battleship, but the producer wants it to be translated as space cruiser because he loves his boat.
Yeah.
Fortunately, Space Battleship won out because it sounds much cooler.
It does sound better. Yeah. But yeah, the Neo Sapiens from Exo Squad, like something about their designs reminds me of the aliens from Space Battleship Yamato.
Basically, the loose skin.
Well, yeah. But yeah, and then you got like I said, you also get the mecha suits. I mean, they're not they're not like say or maybe they are. I was about to say they're not like the Gundam, but then I thought for a second, just because they're not big, then I thought to myself, well, actually, these kind of look like the Zaku mechs.
Well, the exosuits never really had a set formula for how they looked. They all had their unique forms. So they are more the ones that were the smaller ones are more based off of the power armor from Starship Troopers.
Oh yeah, you're right. Now I'll roll back on that one.
Although there was one design that FASA took I think it was Playmates Toys, or that's the name of that toy company. But they were taken to court by the FASA Corporation because one of the designs looked too much like the Timberwolf from Battletech.
Oh God, fuck! They like FASFA's been like, man, FASFA's gotten in trouble with Harmony Gold like at least twice because they used the same Now Harmony Gold, just because they're fucking cunts with their copyright on Robotech, which they, by all rights, they do not have any real claim to that copyright.
Yeah, copyright. Go on.
I was gonna say because it's a copyright on shows they didn't make.
Yeah, that and the company that they actually licensed. I got the permission from the Japanese studio to make to turn these designs into Battlemechs. And so when Battletech went over to Japan, that same company was hired on to redesign those mechs.
Yeah, I know. Like they used the same third-party developer, but the same third-party designer. I mean, but yeah, that's but it's just
they got the creators of Macross.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I find so fascinating about the Harmony Gold situation. Like they've got just because Carl Masick pulled some editing wizardry, they have this copyright for an IP that they didn't even make.
Nope, and the funny thing is that Harmony Gold screwed everyone over. Carl Masick on actually making what he wanted to make, and everyone else over the whole Macross situation.
It's why a new Macross series hasn't been licensed and dubbed in the States to this day.
They're also not doing anything with the IP. What are they doing right now? Oh, they're making a comic. Big deal. Where's the animated show? Where's what they were known for?
Yeah, they just hold on to that IP. Seems like they hold on to that IP so they can sue people with it.
Well, they're gonna be losing it soon anyway.
You know, good riddance. I mean, like maybe finally we can finally get the old Macross series dubbed again.
Oh, but that last dub was so interesting when they had the voice actress, the Japanese voice actress for Minmay, come back to voice the 16-year-old character. That was just the dub wasn't good at all, honestly.
Nope. He just hit me. Guy just hit me up on Twitter. Said sorry. Hold up. Keep talking, Matt.
All right. Well, it's one of those times where you look at the Robotech dub and go, Man, that was a much better dub.
Wow, that's talk about irony. But then again, look, no offense to Japanese people, but this is what happens when you get people who are not native English speakers trying to speak English.
Yeah. Also, it's not just that, but also how the fact that she's aged so much.
I guess so. It's just like,
and she's also voicing a character who's supposed to be Chinese. So
wow.
it's a Japanese accented Chinese teenager.
It's like, dude, wow. Talk about failing.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I like her. I like her work.
Yeah.
I liked her in the original and the Japanese version of Macross, but whoever decided that was a good idea, that's the reason why ADV went under.
Yeah. Well, ADV went under for a myriad of reasons from what I've heard.
Yeah.
Okay, now changing gears. Here's a pic of Spider-Gwen from Into the Spider-Verse I came across, which is interesting, to say the least. I mean, it looks good.
So is Robbie Rodriguez going to sew this arse his ass now?
Probably. Oh, there's Dean.
Can you guys see me?
Yeah, we can see you and we can hear you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, I guess that was the point for me turning this on, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what did I miss?
We were just talking anime and Macross and how Harmony Gold are cunts for holding on to an IP that for a thing they didn't even make, and it seems like and it's poetic justice that they're going to be losing it soon.
They're going to be losing. Sorry, what?
They're going to be losing the IP for Robotech.
Oh, I didn't hear that. I don't know anything about that. So
okay, so like, are you old enough to remember when Robotech was a thing?
I do remember when Robotech was a thing. I think I still even have the original DVDs. So
yeah, do you remember? So then, do you know that Robotech was not originally one series, but it was like 3 different animes spliced together?
Oh, right. Yep.
Yeah. Now, Harmony Gold has been holding on to that IP, and they've sued people for allegedly infringing on their copyright. And the funny thing is, like, they did not make it at all. Like I said, it's just because of some editing wizardry that Carl Macek pulled, and it just seems like they still hold on to that IP so they can sue people. Like, they sued the creators of BattleTech for stealing mech designs when it turned out they just actually the creators from Macross and BattleTech had just employed the same third-party designer. It's
basically a cash grab.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It's a really dumb kind of cash grab when they're not really doing anything with it.
Yeah. Pretty much. So Dean was we brought Dean on to talk about his comic Tainted. So Dean, why don't you start off? Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then talk to us about your project, man.
Okay. Tainted is basically a comic book about it's about a 16-year-old girl. She has she loses her boyfriend in a bus crash, and the boyfriend she falls into a deep depression from the loss, and he basically needs to rebuild herself. So, when through the trauma of the bus crash, she something unlocks in her mind where now she can start seeing these scars on the people that are from a cult, and she doesn't know how the cult is connected to her and why she's seeing these things. And then she meets this other guy by the name of Octavius, who will help her on her journey. And that's basically the first issue. I'm planning 5 issues for this series for the first volume, and then I do have other volumes planned out. But it's basically the reason I wrote it was because I wanted to bring mental health awareness, and I wanted to bring character. I wanted to tell it in not such a story where you're getting banged over the head because it's all about mental health. I wanted to show a character that was vulnerable in that respect, but also could grow and mature and actually get through her illness and still have a regular life. The book is also loosely based on my experiences that I've had through my life. The reason I picked a female heroine was mainly because I wanted to appeal to a younger audience, because I think youth in our society have such a harder time with it because they don't know how to express themselves properly. So that's basically the gist of Tainted. So
a friend of ours, named Brian Ball. He's one of the creators of Rags. He's doing something similar with that book. It's based off his experiences being in the army and his struggles with PTSD, and that's what the main character Regina has to deal with. Third issue was, man, that was a gut puncher. With what Regina was going through. Yeah.
I actually I'll have to make a note to look that up. I have never read that, but I would definitely be deeply interested in reading that. So
yeah, I'll link you Brian's Twitter so you can find it.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, it is. Yeah, you should get up on Rags, because it is. Let me put it. I think the best way is it's the little comic that could.
Okay.
Is that you think that's a good way of putting it, Matt?
Oh yeah, I mean, he never really expected it to succeed.
And did he find a publisher for it, or is he just
Antarctic Press?
Oh, really?
Yeah. In fact, they actually sought him out.
Oh, wow!
It got so popular they wanted it.
Oh, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
The main reason I wanted to write this book was basically because I wanted to share my story, but I also didn't think that there was a heroine out there that had, especially in that age group, that dealt with that kind of thing. And it's when they sought him out, are they marketing it just to regular comic readers, or are they marketing it to people?
It has a mature audience. I'll say that much. Like, you look at any one of the covers and you'll say, yeah, this is not for kids.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that's another thing I'm trying to do with Tainted too, is I wanted to try to appeal to teenagers as well. Yeah. I wanted to help youth, but I also wanted to help adults as well. And my artist, he's Francois from the Philippines. He's actually done some really amazing stuff with panels and being able to show what's going on in her mind and what she's been through, the trauma she's been through, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of relate to that, because my own book, Changeling, has a character from that age group, like probably a little bit younger than I'm sorry, Dean. I think I missed the name of your character.
Sorry, her name is Creed.
Creed, yeah. Maeve is I think Maeve might be a little younger than Creed. I think like Maeve is 14. Creed is like, what, 16?
That's right.
Yep. Yeah, she's a little bit younger, but yeah, she kind of deals with similar things. Oh, and it looks like our third guy Tank is having issues because of a rainstorm out in his area.
Well,
Sorry.
that's rough.
That goes with the territory.
Well, he's out in South Africa.
Oh wow, okay.
And apparently in his area they still have copper. They're still using copper for the internet.
Really?
Yeah, they don't they have fiber optics and they have fiber optic connections in South Africa, but not where he lives.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I was thinking some of the major centers that they have in South Africa, you would think that they would have to have fiber optics, but
he is. I don't think he's near one of the major centers. He's like I think he said he's basically out in the sticks, right, Matt?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's not like Johannesburg or Cape Town or something like that then.
He's like well within the interior.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but yeah, getting back to what I said, like Maeve sort of kind of deals with similar things, mostly dealing with things like autism and being an outcast and other things. But yeah, let me put it this way. If I talk any more about it, I'm just going to be giving away plot details. But so you said like Tainted was based off your own experience. Is there like, how much can you reveal? How much do you feel comfortable revealing about it?
I don't. I mean, the whole point of it was I wanted to start a conversation. So I did reveal a lot of what I went through. I mean, like one of the pages in the book is basically Creek sitting at a table doing a puzzle, and her parents come in to visit her in the ward there, and that's completely and utterly ripped right out of my life. That's when my parents came to visit me in the ward, and that's exactly what I was doing. And they just didn't recognize me, and that's what her parents are having problems with her too, and trying to reconnect with her in that page, and that page was very emotional for me to do, and actually see it come to life with Francois' art was just, it was polarizing. When other people see it, they probably won't have the exact same impact. But it also helped me propel into what went on after that, and how eventually in other issues that after the first issue, in the second issue, she'll be going into training, and she'll be going into ways of having to overcome her depression and deal with her depression and these kinds of things. And some of the stuff that I've learned will be going in there. But there's also the fantasy element of the book too, with the cult and with what their ramifications are with her as well. I mean, I have had some people tell me that the book has a Buffy aspect to it after, besides the depression, and I take that as sort of a compliment, because Buffy changed the way we see so many different kinds of characters, and so many different kinds of books. So I take that as a compliment. So
yeah, I can relate. I can relate to that too. I haven't had people compare Changeling to Buffy yet, but I haven't exactly steered away from the comparison myself, and it's like it's something I've kind of come to I more or less embraced wholeheartedly, because like it's certain things that like certain comparisons are just inevitable.
Yeah, exactly. With our mainstream things that are making tons and tons of money, like there's, if you go back to the myths and the legends and stuff like that went back so far back in time, there's pieces of that just spread throw it all the way through, and there's just some properties in that come up that will always influence us.
Yeah.
And I mean, George Lucas even said when he created Star Wars that there was King Arthur in there, and then there was
samurai films and just like
exactly Kurosawa and the Seven Samurai and all that kind of stuff, and Yojimbo, and yeah. So I mean, everybody's influenced. And I think there's like I said before, the comparison to Buffy, I really take that, like I said, more as a compliment, because if they can even bring it to that echelon, I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah. And I'm looking at your Kickstarter, and so far, like, you're at least 1/3 of the way there, and you've got like 46 days left on the campaign. As I'm guessing the reception has been pretty good so far, right?
It has. I mean, we're closing in on our first $1,000. When we get to the first $1,000, I'm making an announcement that the initial people. Actually, I'll make it here first. That when we do hit $1,000, anybody that's made a contribution to that first 1,000 will receive the first 4 pages of the second issue digital to their email when they're available.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so I'll be adding that to the Kickstarter just to incite more people, but I want to make the announcement first here. So
now, if you don't mind me asking, like the occult elements in the book, is this stuff like say dealing with shit like ghosts and ghosts and other monsters, or are we talking more stuff like psychics and witches?
Actually, the cult itself is it's actually something kind of it's different than both of those. Actually, it's more it's a cult that's been around for about 3,000 years. It started back in the reign of Emperor Nero back in Rome, ancient Rome. And basically what happened is when Nero went mad, his Praetorian Guard created this secret society to save parts of Rome that Nero was destroying with his madness. And then basically what happened is that part evolved into this cult. And then there's also magic and demons that are also involved with that become part of the cult. But that's basically where the cult goes back to. It goes way back to ancient Rome. So. Oh,
so is there a bit of an element of conspiracy fiction in it too?
Oh yeah. They've been around for that amount of time, and they've been plotting and scheming and trying to take over the world. And they did, and even in the book, it's going to tell a couple of times where they got close, but they backed the wrong person, or they just couldn't do couldn't reveal themselves as much at that particular time. So I mean, this is all going to be more revealed in issues probably 2 and 3. Like I have the whole 5-issue series mapped out already, and I have 2 and 3 already blocked. So 4 and 5 I'll probably be blocking within the next month, and then if Kickstarter is funded, then we're going to start printing, and then Francois can start on issue 2. So
yeah, that's awesome. Is you going through a publisher, or is this completely self-published?
Completely self-published so far. I have in the early goings, I did submit it to Image, but I didn't hear anything back, so that's why I went with Kickstarter instead. But I mean, if this book if there are publishers out there that are interested in the book, I mean, they're by all means, we'd definitely be interested in looking what they're offering.
Well, just so happens that Matt and I have a publisher that might be willing to take it.
Really?
Yeah, our publisher, Wicked Publishing. Like they're still looking for new creators.
Oh,
I'll give them if you their Twitter so you can check them out.
Oh, sure, that'd be great. Thank you. Actually, Tainted is the first book that we have coming out. I have another book that I'm also writing that I actually finished. We're just doing the lettering now. It's a sci-fi book that we're gonna hopefully launch in late February and in March. So.
Oh, cool. Awesome. So you got more than just Tainted coming out.
I do. And Tainted is also is mainly the first priority. But the second book is quite a bit different than Tainted. I mean, you're more of a sci-fi comedy kind of tongue-in-cheek kind of story. So it's called Clutch and Prayer. If you want to Creek's World on Facebook, there's some pieces of art from that. I can actually send you guys some art from that too if you like. So it's a Argentinian artist that did the art for that. So
yeah, I'm actually curious because like I'm looking at the art and this is really good. This stuff does not look like I've seen a lot of indie comics that they have sort of a, for lack of a better word, cheap look to them.
Yeah,
but this actually looks pretty professional.
Thank you.
Yeah, so like how'd you come across Francois?
Francois and I was I saw a couple of his fan drawings that he'd done for anime, and I inquired about him, saying like I had this. Basically, the whole story of Tainted is I've been working on this thing for 2 years. I originally had another artist on it. He was from Greece. His name was George Agas, and he did the first 3 pages and the cover and a lot of ads and stuff for Tainted. And then George had some personal issues, so he had to step down. So I had to restart again, and I was just looking through anime artists, that anime artists thing on Facebook, and Francois had put up some fan art. So I asked him, "Have you ever done any full pages before?" He really said no. But then I showed him what I was looking for, like I showed him the previous artist stuff, and he said, just hang on a second. I'm going to look at these pages, and then I'm going to send you my versions free. And I'm like, what? Okay, sure. I mean, I'd almost given up on the book by that time. And he sent me back that first cover of her doing the shush. That was almost exactly the same as the previous artist, except it had his version of it, and it just took the book to a different level.
Oh yeah, I went through a similar thing with my book, because like the original artist, she had to quit because she had a job offer come up, and it was an opportunity she couldn't pass up. So we parted amicably, and I was forced to look for new artists. And the upside was I ended up getting my team of Victor and Ginger. Like Victor's got the line art that really kind of gives it a unique look, and Ginger's coloring gives it so much depth and life. It's turned out a lot better than I could have hoped for.
It's amazing when that happens. I mean, it turns out better than you had in your brain. It's just, holy crap, this guy's amazing, or this person's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, actually, something I kind of learned, like working with Victor and Ginger, is that the 3 of us seem to have we really click together, and there's like this. We got this really good synergy going where we're all just feeding into each other, and now we're making this book 10 times better than anything I could have imagined. Do you have that with Francois?
I do. Francois, he also does his own inking and his own coloring. And we have a friend of his, Ryan. His his official name is Reinhard, but he goes by Boknoy, and he does all the lettering for us. No, we definitely have that synergy. I mean, when I send him my scripts, he'll go over it with a fine tooth comb, and then he'll send me back saying, well, maybe we change this a little bit, or we change this a little bit. Like, I had this one page where there was all these thought bubbles were going above her head, and they showed little pictures of these thought bubbles, right? And he said, what if we made that shattering glass instead? And then it was like the glass fragments were the pieces that were going through her head. And I thought, oh my God, that would be amazing, because that's exactly how she's feeling. And just that kind of synergy. But also, I've also found that there's also sometimes what's challenging is working with somebody that has English is not their first language.
Is he what? I'm going by the name that he's French.
No, he's actually Filipino.
Oh.
He's Filipino, and he actually he's when I said for her to be sitting at a table, he put her on the table, sitting on top of the table, doing a Rubik's cube. And I had explained to him, no, at a table means you're sitting at a desk, not on the desk. And then he had to go back and redo that whole entire panel, but in his language, they both mean the same thing. So he misread that part of the script. But I also thought that was kind of fascinating, because I never would have thought in a million years of putting the character sitting on top of a table doing a Rubik's cube, because it makes her even look more odd. But I did pull it back and say, no, this is what happened to me, and this is how it should be, because it also makes her feel more distant because she's on the other side of the table, away from her parents, not on the table. So, but just that language barrier, I think, is really interesting, especially when you're working with people overseas. I mean, there's so much talent out there, and so many different people out there, but you don't expect these things. So.
Matt's actually Matt's worked with a guy from the Philippines who's, believe it or not, he was on the animation team for season 1 of Rick and Morty, right?
Oh wow.
Yep. Yep, but his artwork is so much better than that. In fact, he's the one who drew the profile pic that I have of Mason McKinnon from McKinnon Chronicles, a story I'm working on right now for Wicked Publishing.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, you should see that. Well, this is just the part he could show in the profile picture. You should see the full thing. It's amazing. Yeah, I'm saying, like, his talent. I'm just gonna be honest. His talents were utterly wasted on Rick and Morty.
Now that's saying something.
Yeah.
Yep.
I love that. I love that cartoon song.
Yeah, I have the first 2 seasons on DVD, but like I've kind of dropped the show. Season 3 did not leave a good taste in my mouth. Let's just put it that way.
No, there was definitely some lazy episodes there, but I think it wasn't Pickle Rick in season 3.
Oh, God, I fucking hate Pickle Rick.
I think it's because I live in South Africa. All this shit just sailed me by, fortunately. So I'm like I'm looking at it, it's like, wow, people are really stupid.
Yep. Pickle Rick was a meme that got, oh man, that thing was saying that meme turned into a dead horse is putting it lightly. That horse was decomposing.
Yeah,
I don't know. Living in shithole central does have its benefits sometimes.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like I think also like Brian and Trent's guy for Rags, he's from the Philippines too, ain't he?
No, I think Luigi is in the States, but the colorist, Cappuccino, is from France.
Could have sworn he was in the Philippines, or maybe maybe he's talking about the old guy.
It's possible.
Probably.
Yeah, the guy they had first. But yeah, our other mutual friend Dan Sakaro, for his book Adobe Kroger, he's employing a Filipino artist named Leandro. Really talented guy. Yeah, but yeah, you're right. There's like a lot of talent that comes out of the Philippines now. Amazingly, I do not seem to have that same language barrier problem with my team, and that's saying something considering that Victor is Mexican and Ginger is Russian.
Oh, wow. That's quite a mixture.
No one can say the Changeling team is not diverse.
All that depends. Is Victor a Mexican who could pass off as white?
I think I've gotten a look at him. He looks pretty Mexican.
Okay. Because there are some who are white, but they'll probably get passed. So they'll probably never get a pass on their ethnicity.
Matt, I gotta wonder. You're like half white. Can you pass for white or Asian?
According to both sides, neither. But I think, actually, the funny thing is, there have been people who thought I'm Mexican.
How could they think a half Vietnamese guy is Mexican? Someone needs to explain that.
I don't know.
I've got the answer to that. People are stupid.
Good answer, Matt. Good answer, Tank.
But the funny thing is that my dad, when he was younger, him and my mom were on a date. A group of Mexicans just called out to him like they were his brother. So I'm beginning to think that Vietnamese are the Mexicans of the Asians.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, can you drop a lot of comparisons between Mexico and Vietnam? I mean, I don't think Mexico's gone full commie yet.
That's the weird thing, is that Vietnam has more in common with Australia's beginnings as a nation that started with roots with being the place where they dropped off political prisoners.
Really? So
Yeah.
there's there's a lot. This makes it sound like you're almost making it sound like there's not really such a thing as an ethnic Vietnamese person.
No, basically it's just Chinese political prisoners.
Mostly Chinese.
Yeah.
Well, did not know. Now that is interesting.
I did not know that.
Well, good. Yeah, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say it's like Chinese, mix of Laotian, possibly some Japanese.
Yeah, more than likely.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, so you and Francois basically does all the artwork. He colors, he inks, he does the line art.
Yeah, he's a one-man machine for sure. Yes.
Yeah. Well, something I noticed working with Victor is like there were a couple times like he sort of went off script and added things into the book, which I ended up sort of keeping just because I thought that it actually improved it. Has Francois, you ever had that with Francois?
No, for sure. I think. I mean, style-wise, for sure. I mean, like I would write when I write the script. I have certain things in my head that how I think things should look, and then he'll come up with a whole different concept. His take on there's his take on clothing. I mean, like what the characters are wearing and stuff like that. I'll have a particular idea how I think what they should be wearing, and then he'll completely change it up a bit, and it actually makes the scene work better. Those things are I mean, those kinds of things. I mean, you haven't really. I think you. How many issues have you done with your team so far?
We're working on the first one right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think mainly that it's just been that. I also think he's I'm probably going to give him more liberty when we do the second book, because there's going to be some things he's going to have to come up with himself, because I had so much layout and working for 2 years on just the first book that there was, I mean, there's already so much planning involved. Where with the second book, we're going to have to, I think he's probably going to have to add a lot more to it. So.
Yeah, but I mean that's pretty good though. I mean, like it's kind of. I mean, the thing I kind of like about my team is that I can just sort of just hand them a script, and I don't really have to give them much in the way of direction, because I know that they'll nail it, and they'll come up with something that I'm gonna love.
Yeah, and I'm very much the same way with Francois, and he has another thing I like about him too is that he has no problems with doing changes. I mean, if there's something that doesn't work, like I said, like the things for her sitting on the table versus at the table, he had no problem going back and redoing that and changing that up. Also, with the lettering too. I mean, we played with umpteen amount of designs for the logo. I mean, the original logo for my company, Eclipse Press, comes back from the original artist, but the actual Tainted design logo on the cover, we went through probably 4 different versions before we came up with that version. The original artist, George, when he did the original logo for the book, he actually went and physically made the logo out of wood, and then he photographed it, and then he digitally enhanced it, took the photographs and then digitally enhanced them based on his sculpture, and that's how he got the logo. And he's actually shown me pictures of the actual wooden logo, and I'm like, "Are you kidding me? I just wanted you to come up with a different kind of font."
Damn.
Not a whole logo, not a whole sculpture.
My logo for my book I had done by a mutual friend of ours, but it's really good. Looks really stylish. I'll say that. But yeah, the logo for Tainted, I mean, like, yeah, I kind of like that. I kind of like that, like the way it's like the font is sort of designed. It kind of has kind of a definitely a sort of an alt rock sort of vibe to it.
It does, for sure. And also, I think I wanted to make sure that it actually helped, paying homage to the original sculpture too. Like we got the original font, the original logo was a lot more, had a lot more different colors, a lot more kind of branches and that kind of thing on it. So what my letterer did is he basically knocked it down to the simpler version, but it still looks like the original logo. Like, I mean, it still has that sort of hunted wood kind of feeling to it.
Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Hey, if you don't mind talking, like, besides your own experiences, like, what other influence are you pulling for Tainted? Like, specifically, like, what else were you looking towards? Because with me, like in my case with Changeling, I was looking towards stuff like Celtic folklore and anime that I was into when I was a teenager, like Bleach and Fooly Cooly.
Okay. With Tainted, I think my other influences would go back to the cult. I mean, I wanted to bring in sort of a secret society like Skull and Bones kind of thing, and also I think it has to do with connections to her. I mean, she's not only fighting this stuff inside, but she's also fighting this stuff that's going on outside. so the secret society and conspiracies and the Roman Empire and then that sort of architecture and that kind of stuff, that sort of influenced me.
So a bit of history in there too.
Yeah, the history. Also, I think I think it was probably my subconscious, but her having a mentor who teaches and stuff like that. I guess there might have been Buffy there too. I don't know, but
maybe, but yeah, like so, like what is the cult in the book like based off an actual Roman cult?
No. It's completely and utterly made up. But it's I wanted to just bring in I just want to bring in my fascination with history and that kind of thing being around, hidden behind us, or hidden not hidden within our society. Like with I wanted her to see those scars that so that only she can see those people. And there's already people that think that she is crazy because of what she's going through. But her seeing those scars, only she can see, and she's telling people, I can see that. Well, they think that she's crazier, but it's actually happening to her. And then when she finds this one person that actually believes her and actually knows what's going on, then she has that satisfaction within her. So it's all multi-layered within Creek herself. So,
damn, if you don't mind, I'm curious though. Like, is the book gonna explain like how this cult has managed to survive the Christian Church? Yeah,
it will. In the book, issue 2 actually opens up with as Oct starts telling her the story of the cult. It talks about how how Emperor Nero and him going mad, and like I said, and the Praetorian Guard basically coming with this cult, and they basically been underground in this series of catacombs and bunkers during when the Christian Church was rising, and they actually had different parts of the cult in Persia as well. So not only were they trying to avoid the Christians, but they're also trying to avoid the Muslims.
So I gotta wonder, without giving too much away, did this cult engage in some infiltration of those institutions, possibly?
I'll just do this for now.
Okay, so they may have high-ranking members in places of influence in the Christian Church.
They have people everywhere. I'll put it that way.
People in position. So there's always they've got people all over in positions of influence. Like we're talking like government, religion, finance.
Yeah. And that's another reason why they've been able to survive for so long, is because they basically have people in all different layers of society, and basically covering their tracks and going back to where their main base is. There's some really huge revelations in the 4th and 5th issues of the series, where you're going to get really into the layers of the cult, and also the one resistance that's trying to pull people away from the cult, and that part of the resistance is called the Julio Cross, and that's who Octavius is part of.
Is that? With a name like Julio Cross, it almost sounds like it's a secret arm of the Catholic Church.
I'm not gonna say anything about that either. I don't want to reveal all the.
I totally get you, man. Like you reveal if you like tell us everything, then what's the point of buying the book?
Exactly.
Actually, our friend Dan actually has a kind of a similar thing going on with Adobe Kroger. Because his main character, Adobe, she's a paladin in a secret order called the Carolingian Cross. Like it's like the whole thing with Charlemagne and his paladins.
Yeah.
that's basically what it is. Like they are just that order's descended from the Paladins, and they've basically got their own people in positions of influence as well. But of course they claim to have more noble intentions.
Oh, cults always do.
Like they're their thing is like they're sort of fighting a secret war against darkness. That's like it's. You actually should. He's actually got it at the book out to print over on Amazon. Adobe Kroger Knight Errant, and there's an audiobook, also very excellent. I'd recommend that. And he's actually working on a prequel graphic novel that is going to be published through Wicked, and is actually going to be part of a shared universe with.
Sorry, I missed that. Shared universe with who?
Me and Matt.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, and it wasn't. This was sort of like a happy coincidence. We just happened to have 3 ideas for books that just fit really well together. Yeah.
And so you're going to have different characters appearing in different books.
Yeah. That or referencing events that happened in other books. Like, I mean, Matt, do you think it's possible that something that goes down in Mythics could like end up on the news and travels as far as Aberdeen?
Maybe, but probably not, since it's supposed to be all stuff that should happen in secret because of Dan's Paladins.
Yeah, also true. I don't know. I mean, possibly, yeah. True. Well, I don't know. We'll. I think we did have like a crossover plan where we're still figuring this out as we go. Like we're hammering out the details, but this is actually really cool. Bullshit that we're doing. Yeah. So like, but yeah. So you're pulling a lot from from history and history. Obviously, like I'm gonna assume it's definitely the Roman Empire. Is like if you don't mind me asking, because this is something I also kind of found out when I was making up Changeling, because with Changeling I kind of wanted to evoke sort of a fairy tale atmosphere. So I kind of realized, can't set this in a place like Seattle, like a big city. So it had to be in a small town that was isolated. And in Washington, the one place that fits that perfectly is Aberdeen. It's kind of got that right. It's kind of small enough to be a town where everyone still knows each other, but it's not so far out in the sticks. And it's surrounded. And because it's a logging town, it's surrounded by forest, so it's pretty isolated. It just sort of fits the atmosphere I'm going for, and that I just found out that how important setting is. Like where where is Tainted sort of happening? Is it something kind of have like we talking small town or big city?
No, it's the book starts in her small town, and then eventually she has to when they find her, she has to escape, and so it'll end up being in Rome and in Italy and in Istanbul as well. So.
Oh, so this feels like it's definitely playing up to the hero's journey.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, but I also think that also harkens back to people overcoming depression as well, and having to develop all these new skills to make themselves stronger, and that's what she's a metaphor for, and that's also hero's journey. So
yeah, I mean that's so essentially she's getting pulled out of her ordinary life and then put on this epic journey. Like that kind of reminds me a bit of Preacher.
Preacher. When I think of Preacher, I think of Preacher more of as a Preacher's definitely a hero's journey, yes, but I think of it as more like a road trip kind of thing. This is where basically she's tracking the cult, where she's actually they're coming after her, but eventually she has to go and face them. So she actually basically has to go and stand up for her destiny and the end of her journey. So you have, but it's a more of a I can't remember. Did Preacher actually have a destination?
Well, I think what the main destination for Jesse was that he wanted to find God, literally, and it just so happened that he got mixed up in all the cult shit along the way.
Yeah. With her, it's actually an actual destination that she's actually having to go to. That's so I get where Preacher is probably more of a spiritual journey. Hers is an actual more of a I need to get to the bottom of this kind of journey.
Yeah. So yeah, it's more like she has a more, I guess you could say, a more tangible objective than what Jesse had in Preacher.
That's correct. That's a great way to put it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, maybe more like a more direct objective, because like I said, I haven't read Preacher in a while, so some details I'm probably forgetting. But yeah, like I said, like Jesse's thing was like he gets fused with Genesis, and then because he's sort of been having this crisis of faith for so long, and now he's decided, you know what, I'm gonna see if I can go find God. And then it just so happens there's this cult that's been protecting this bloodline from this Christ bloodline, that they take notice of him, and he just sort of gets mixed up in stuff against his will. Well, whereas with Creek, like I'm gonna assume the cult comes after her directly, and then she kind of has to go on that journey so she can get answers.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. And as a little teenager, she's kicking and screaming, and very reluctant to having to want to go on this and go and do all this, because
it is a big step in the hero's journey. You have to refuse the call.
You do, for sure. Yes.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, it's going to be it's going to be a really interesting. I can't wait to see how Francois is going to start doing the other side of the book, because the first issue is mainly her first steps, and then the second book basically starts to open up the whole world, and so it'll be interesting to see how much we go, or how far he's going to actually go with that kind of stuff. So
yeah. Good. Now, one thing, I kind of hate to bring up my book again, but like one thing something that's like a big part of like Changeling is that because it deals with things like the Fae, there's sort of having to travel to a supernatural realm for Maeve periodically. Does sort of things like other supernatural realms play into Tainted, or is this like is it just more supernatural shit encroaching on our Earth?
It's more that encroaching on that it coming to it being part of our world. It's mainly based really on our world. You don't really have like a portal to the fairies or a portal to this. I mean, in future volumes, there is a part of the cult that where they did do secret events and these kinds of things, but that's way far down yet. So I haven't really even fleshed out all that yet. For right now, but for the first volume, it's more about conspiracies and this girl's, like you said, this girl's hero's journey. So.
Yeah. And so I guess we can assume for like the first one, she's going to be dealing with like other humans, not like supernatural beings or anything. You can decline to answer if you so wish.
there's I'll just say number 5 will be an eye opener.
Okay, then. So that actually sounds pretty damn cool. Matt, Tank, you mind taking this while I use the bathroom?
Oh, sure.
Yep.
So, okay.
How are you doing?
Oh, I'm good. I'm just trying to think about what wasn't covered, what possibly wasn't covered, and trying to think of what wouldn't be a spoiler.
How far are you guys along with your book?
Oh, I've got for Mythics, I've got about 3 pages I'm showcasing on Twitter, and with McKinnon Chronicles, I've got 1 page fully colored, and 5 more that's in progress at the moment.
Okay.
Yep.
It takes a while.
Oh yeah.
Don't let that discourage you. I mean, it like I said, it took me 2 years to get to this point. So, it'll be 2 years. It'll be 2 years in March when we started this, or I started this journey. So.
Yeah, I know it's a pretty wild ride, but creatively.
Oh, it is.
Mainly because McKinnon Chronicles took me about 6 years, and Mythics was 3 years in the making.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yep.
And was that just bring out the first issue, or was that bring out the series?
Well, just for fleshing out how where I want to take characters, what the setting was like. You know, I'm the details guy, so if there's anything, there's gonna be a lot of details that'll be in the background that'll be important for later on.
So you're more the world builder.
Yep.
Okay. It's and you said you're working on 2 different books, and they're both, you said, they're both haven't finished their first issue yet?
Not yet. McKinnon Chronicles is going to Indiegogo next month.
Okay.
And Mythics, I'm going to test out this system I've had in mind for a while, where the pages will be completely out of pocket, but I'll be putting them on Patreon first, and then putting them on webcomics pages.
Okay.
Yep. How about you?
Well, with me,
Well, how do you build up the worlds?
how do I build worlds?
Yeah.
I think when I do it, I mainly start with a some people they start with like the whole planet and the whole land and the whole that thing, and then they narrow it down to a character.
Mm-hmm.
What I do with mine is I tend to start with a really fully fleshed out character, and then I build off of that, and then I think about what kind of antagonist would best suit this character, or what kind of universe would this character best be suited in. I mean, you can always go back and take your character and put them in a different universe or a different world later on. But I think for me in the beginning, I like to have the 2 or mainly either 1 or 2 really fleshed out characters, and then build the world from them. With my second book, Clutch and Prayer, it's a sci-fi book that they're basically war veterans that have turned into bounty hunters, and they're basically they're having the trauma of the war. They're having all these stuff that's come back from the war, and these kinds of things that have actually helped. And so you like I said before, you build out from those like Clutch and Prayer would be those two characters, and would taint it. It was Creek, and then eventually Octavius, and then you build up from that. That's how I build worlds. So.
Sounds like we have a similar style.
Oh, is that how you do too?
Yeah, I mean, I like character-based stories, so it's always going to be about the perfect character for the protagonist.
Exactly. And I think that's I mean, I think that's where your strength comes from too. I mean, if the reader doesn't believe in the character themselves, then they don't. Then how can they believe in the world that they're going to be part of?
Yeah, and also people will connect with the character more, connect with the story. So
Yeah.
if something happens to the character, they're going to be invested with it, with the character.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I don't understand these guys. I mean, that when they world build, they start with a map, and then they build that way. I mean, like, okay, you have a map. It looks beautiful. You have all these different countries with all these really cool names. But what about the one guy that lives in that one hut that's on the corner of that road, and what's he like? And they have no idea because they've been so spent on the politics of the world and the economy of the world. And
I'm gonna go on a limb and say you're not a big adherent to the George R. R. Martin school of world building.
no, like I was saying, like I was saying with your friend there, it's where his style and my style are very similar. We start with one or two guys, then we build out.
Yeah.
Is how I like to do it. Martin, I would imagine was the map guy.
I think he's more the politics guy, just because like of how heavy that plays into Song of Ice and Fire.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
because I think Tolkien was that way too, where he basically drew out the map of Middle Earth first. And then he started to design each of the races in each of the places, and then that's how he built his world. So
yeah, he still good characters though.
Oh no, he did eventually, but it also took him 10 years.
Well,
Yes.
I think a lot of the Middle Earth stuff happened as a happy accident.
Yeah,
True. Yeah, because if I remember correctly, he never really intended to link The Hobbit with Lord of the Rings. Well, not initially.
no, he didn't. No, I did I read somewhere that he actually started.
He started with The Hobbit because what happened was like one of his students left like a blank sheet of paper on his desk, and he just wrote on it, "In the hole in the ground there lived a hobbit," and that's where The Hobbit came from.
Well, another thing, if you want to go even earlier, it was with Beren and Luthien.
That whole Beren and Luthien, like that's actually based off his own life, believe it or not. It was how he was courting his wife, and like how there was some resistance from her family because he was Catholic and she was Protestant.
Is that the Silmarillion?
It's in Beren and Luthien was initially its own story, and then it got collected with the Silmarillion when his grandson started editing it.
Oh,
His son.
I thought it was his grandson.
Nope, it's his third son. He's 94 years old, and he was still working on it, I think.
I could have sworn Christopher Tolkien was his grandson. Let me check.
I think there might be another Christopher Tolkien, but
Oh, you're right. You're right. It's his third son.
yep. He was the one that had helped him with all the maps.
Yeah. But yeah, like so like I guess we can just say like not everyone can be Tolkien.
no.
Actually, Tank is Tank. Like, what was the process when you were putting together Reigns of Peace, Acts of War? Because he's got like this massive science fiction universe for his book.
Well, the process to put it together it originally started, it wasn't even science fiction. It was more the original concept as I started was purely blending science fiction with and a little bit of science. Well, not actually science fiction, more like fantasy in a modern world military setting. And then it kind of died down. Stopped working on it. Then around that was 2006, 2007 when the idea formed. But it actually really started taking shape after playing Halo 3 and the original Dawn of War, and after I got introduced to the Warhammer 40k setting. And from there on, everything just really took shape from there.
Okay.
Kind of more or less. So it's kind of more like that. So it's kind of more like the story could have worked in like any setting, and it just happened you just latched onto this one particular setting really strongly.
The way it blended everything together, I mean, like a lot of people know the thing behind 40k. Most people only know the grim dark part of it. I mean, it's so dark it's actually over the top and actually gets funny and hilarious. But the way it blended the more esoteric themes like magic and things, science, along with the proper sci-fi themes of the far future, space battles, and all those things. It blended it together in such a wonderful way. That is what drew me to that setting, and that is why I, for lack of a better term, latched onto that. Yes.
I've heard of other creators doing that too, where they'll come up with just a story itself, where it doesn't matter where the setting is. This is what they want to happen. These are the characters they want to involve, and they just want the world, and then they just pick the world that the most appeals to them. And that sounds like exactly what you're talking about. You do that, and it's sort of like what we do anyway. We start with the main character and then we build out. But yours was more, it sounds like it was more of a setting. Is that correct?
No, I had two of the current main cast of 6 characters already fleshed out and ready to go. And from there on, everything else, just when I did finally start putting the whole setting together, it grew from there. So the two main characters, Gunnar Stone and Lucia Vale, were already fleshed out and ready to go in the first setting.
Okay.
But when I started redoing it, a lot of things changed from there.
Okay. And you see, so you never had a setting in mind then to begin with?
Not really. Like I said, at that point in time, it was more creating characters than anything else, because I'm a big gamer. So a lot of the times, a lot of the concepts and things that I had in mind were used in video games. So pretty much these characters were transplants for characters that I had in video games.
Okay.
But no, they're not part of that setting anymore. They won't fit in that setting anymore.
Okay.
So like in your case, Dean, like would you say like the whole fantasy element is like Tainted would not work any other way?
I think the reason I picked the way it is because of my experience. So I wanted it to be more based on reality, because if I did do some of the emotional stuff that's in the book in a sort of fantasy realm or a sci-fi realm or these kinds of things, I don't know if it would have worked as well. I think that's another reason why I kind of did the second book almost at the same time, because while I was doing the really heavy Tainted stuff, I was doing this more fun book on the side. So I thought that they sort of balanced each other out. So you're probably correct. It probably wouldn't work as well in another environment. I mean, you could have it set in space or in a fantasy realm, but I don't think you'd have as emotional impact. I don't think you'd have as a wide an audience.
Yeah. Yeah, still, considering what like Creek is having to deal with, like the fantasy elements and supernatural stuff like that. There's a good use for metaphor in there, just because of what, just because of like, as when like I've dealt with depression before, especially when I was a teenager following my parents' divorce, and it's like when you're kind of in that headspace, it sort of feels like the world is ending for you, and I'm only lucky that my dad was there to sort of be an emotional rock for me when I was going through that.
Yeah.
And it's just so like you can sort of depict like sort of these things that feel very epic, feel very heavy, and like I said, in some cases almost apocalyptic, but that's when you're gonna see like, yeah, but it's not just there that's not just there to have these cool set pieces. There's a metaphor there. There's something deeper there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and but I also wanted to make sure that I didn't want it to be I wanted to have it as wide an audience as possible. And I think basing it in more in our reality and will I think will help more people that way. I mean, you can people going through depression, people going through all these emotional issues and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that works in fantasy too, but I don't think it would appeal or send the message that I wanted to send it as much if it was set in a different kind of realm. So.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think Matt told me like the three genres that appeal best to a young adult audience are urban fantasy, dystopian fiction, and steampunk. I mean, the first two I can definitely see. I mean, like people are still sort of quoting Buffy to this day for better and worse, and Hunger Games was huge when I was in high school and college. And steampunk, I'm a little bit more curious about. Like, how do young people like find that appealing? I mean, like,
well, there were a lot of young adult books that were written with steampunk in mind.
What about the shimmery vampires?
I think that could be classified under urban fantasy.
Urban fantasy. Okay.
Yeah, urban fantasy is basically when you take fantasy elements and put them in more of a modern setting.
Okay, so that's exactly what Tainted would be then too. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what Changeling is too, and that's kind of what Matt's Project Mythics is, and that's what Dan's book Adobe Kroger is too. Like, they're all like urban fantasy books, and like those are books that have that's a genre that holds a lot of appeal to young people. I mean, it's not hard to see why. I get young people sort of go for that, go for stuff that's like. It's just kind of fun imagining that there's this whole secret world behind our boring, mundane world, and it gives them like a place to escape to. And then there's the whole rebellion element with dystopian fiction, like rebellion against the system. That's like instant appeal to young people. Yeah, I guess where steampunk is just more the aesthetic looks cool.
Yeah.
That's the so I guess you might even classify superheroes as urban fantasy.
Some, depending on the book, a lot of them have leaned more into science fiction. If you ask me, like stuff, it sort of depends on the book. If you're getting into like say like with like Doctor Strange, Ghost Rider, like stuff that is much more heavily supernatural, yeah, definitely urban fantasy. Otherwise, like if you get like stuff like Spider-Man, Superman, man, like even Captain America, it's like it's more science fiction just because of there's quote unquote science involved or stuff from space. It varies from book to book.
You could probably also call the superhero for a science fiction because Stan Lee was thinking about how to make Thor fly with some science aspect to it, such as that's the reason why he can only fly when he's using the hammer.
Well, yeah, Stan Lee. That was. I mean, the whole entire '60s. That was the whole atomic age and the radiation and all that kind of stuff. So that, yeah, all Stan Lee's creations were all based on science. The DC stuff is more. I know there's more. There's some science fiction, but there's a lot more magic and I don't know, vigilante kind of stuff in that universe versus Marvel. So.
Yeah, and sometimes it feels like DC has more of they're creating modern mythology.
Well, yeah, definitely, because all the various cities in the DC universe, they're not even they're based on real cities, but they exist within that one universe. There's no Gotham, there's no Metropolis, there's no Central City.
No. I mean, people can speculate what city they think Gotham is, or they can speculate what city they think Metropolis is, but that's not what it is in that universe. So.
Even though they're based up, definitely based off real places, they're not supposed to be real places. Whereas Marvel was always trying to be a reflection of the real world.
Especially with Spider-Man and the teenager aspect and
I think Peter Parker's home neighborhood is based off a real neighborhood in Queens.
That's exactly right. Yeah, I mean, there was a point in the DC universe where they just had too many cities. I mean, I think they ran out of good names for cities. Because it was always this city and that city, but every hero had their own city. But that aspect got kind of funny when it started to bring all the characters together, because every character had their own city. I mean, Green Lantern had Coast City, and Green Arrow had Star City, and the Flash had Central City, and I mean. And then Shazam had Fawcett City. I mean, just like I said, too many cities, and they had to get rid of some of them. So that's probably the reason why they blew up Coast City. But
yeah, I mean, that was always something about DC that I always found fascinating, was that given these characters their own unique cities, and it also kind of helped lend a little bit of identity to the books too, because there's a world of difference between Gotham and Metropolis. It's it's night and day.
Yeah, and I like that when a writer actually acknowledges that.
Yeah,
there has been some writers that they don't. It's and Batman just doesn't work in a well lit Metropolis.
No, he doesn't. Nope. He does not. He's just he has to have this dark, gloomy Gotham. That's where he has to be. Whereas about the closest Marvel ever comes to that is when you sort of go the difference between Spider-Man and Daredevil, Daredevil, where Spider-Man hangs out in Queens and Manhattan, where it's a little bit more lively, and Daredevil hangs out in Hell's Kitchen, where it's more dreary.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and you have. I think that there was that other one. Well, they have so many of the Marvel characters are all in New York.
Yeah.
But they've also taken all the boroughs and basically given them all their own different personalities.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, Spider-Man more or less has Queens and Manhattan. Daredevil has Hell's Kitchen. Luke Cage has Harlem.
Yeah, and the Fantastic Four has is that Manhattan, I guess, too. But
Yeah, I think the Baxter Building's in Manhattan, isn't it, guys?
Yeah, it is.
and then that also gave you a way of having the crossovers instead of, like I said, in the DC universe, you had to go to another city to have the crossover and those kinds of things. Like, what are you doing in my city? I protect the city.
Exactly. Yeah, I guess you could say the DC heroes are a bit more territorial.
Batman always says that when a hero comes to Gotham. He's like, what are you doing here?
Yeah, pretty much, actually, yeah.
Yeah, I just think that's funny, but you don't have if the hero shows up in Central City, you don't have the Flash asking the hero a million questions like, "Thank you for the help."
It's. I guess I gotta kind of credit the CW a little bit for like sort of not. Like, they don't make that as big of a deal when they did crossovers with Flash and Green Arrow. It's like, what the fuck is what's Barry doing in Star City? Hey, why is Oliver in Central City? Okay, like they don't even acknowledge that, man.
No, they don't. No, they don't.
They're just there.
And also, also on Arrow too. I mean, they turned Star City into Gotham, and basically Star City in the comic books is based on Seattle. So it had the West Coast weather, but it didn't have the huge amount of darkness all the time.
Yeah, mostly Seattle's just overcast most of the time.
But we're not talking Gotham overcast.
Yeah, it just looks great. But like, I've been up to Seattle a couple times, and it's just more the vibe you get is sort of like it wouldn't, let me put it this way, it would not be as I don't think it's as crime ridden as Star City, but the character of like Seattle it's like very like laid back, but there's also like this kind of futurist vibe to it too, because Seattle's such a big tech hub up on the West Coast. It's not as big as Silicon Valley, but like there's a few big tech companies in here, like Microsoft, that has set up shop.
Yeah. Well, Bill Gates's smart house looks over Puget Sound or something.
Maybe I'd have to double check, but yeah, but as for Tainted, I mean, like the fact that it kind of goes up, it tackles so many different settings, like that's gonna be fun to play. I mean, like it does also sort of play into the hero's journey too. Yeah, but like I guess you don't mind me asking, like, where exactly does like Creek start? Like, is it based off a real place?
No, it's not based off a real place. It's just a small town. I didn't really develop her actual town a lot. I mainly developed her and her family and her backstory. And basically, she just lives she goes to the high school, and down the street, she only lives a couple blocks from the high school. You don't have a lot of history of the town itself, because you didn't really need it, because you wanted to stick more with her and what's going on with her. And I think I'm going to do the same thing when she gets to a bigger place, because it's going to be through her eyes. Like, I have I've already have all the covers laid out for the first 5 issues, and one of them you have one of the covers is basically you have Creek walking from the sort of the dinge of where she's come from before into the light, which is Trevi Fountain in Rome, and that's the 2 halves of the cover, and that's sort of a change of her depression and her stepping into the light, and finally finding where her destiny is sending her, right? So, so I didn't really go a huge amount into the town, because I wasn't going to stay there very long. I mean, I'm going to have these destinations, and it's only going to be over 5 issues. And basically, after she leaves the town, I don't see her going back.
Huh. So I guess we're leaving out the whole returning Master of Two Worlds step then.
Yeah, I mean, that could come back in later volumes, but not in this first 5 issues. No.
And I kind of had to go the opposite route, just because like I never really, because I was sort of having, I wanted Maeve's story to sort of kind of happen while she was in high school. So the way I saw it, she was gonna be staying in Aberdeen through like through that time period. So the setting is actually very important to that book.
So so then it is more like Buffy, where Buffy had Sunnyvale, and basically everything happened in that small town.
Yeah, well, everything happened in Sunnydale because it was built over a portal to hell.
Yeah, yeah, but just saying it happens. You get to know more of the town and everything weird that happens in that town, and that's the reason why, because it was built over at Hellmouth.
Well, yeah, I'm not, but yeah, I mean, like it's also, but yeah, definitely, and it also helps like the setting take on a character of its own, which.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm not. She's more with Painted. She's, like I said, she's going to leave her town. I'm not really sure. Like I said, I blocked out the up to number 4, and then I have outlines for 4 and 5. But in the second volumes, I just have little paragraphs of what I would do with the other volumes, and I just never thought of her actually coming back, because the only reason the cult came to her town to begin with was because she was there. So I wouldn't have her. I don't think I'd have her come back.
Yeah, I mean that's not necessarily a bad thing. And thing like because Preacher probably would not have worked if Jesse had stayed in Texas like that. Like it was kind of like the whole point of that was for him to go on a journey to find God. So he sort of had to leave.
Yeah,
believe in. So like if your character's story involves them going on this journey, like you sort of have to get them. You have to get them out of their out of their comfort zone. You have to get them to leave the home.
Exactly. And I mean that's another metaphor for depression too. Is the outsider thing too. I mean, and having to deal with all these new things that are attacking you all the time, mm-hmm. and that stress threshold. I mean, that's another way to challenge her. Where if she stayed in her comfort zone, which is what people with depression really shouldn't do. Like people with depression, they just want to stay in bed all the time, right? So that's their comfort zone. But no, that for them to feel better about themselves, they need to get out there and do things, right? So that's basically what that's why I think it was better for her to go on a journey and have a purpose than to stay in her comfort zone. There's also a page in the book too where she comes home from school crying, and I think it's on the Kickstarter page, and she has an argument with her mother, and her mother because of her issues, her mother blames her for her father leaving. So that would be another reason why she probably wouldn't come back.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I can see that. Like I said, like I would say Maeve's story is a bit more. It's more existential, because, like I said, it's more her trying to. She's pretty much been an outcast her entire life, and it's just more her trying to figure out how she can fit in, and then find out where she belongs. So her story kind of works better if she stays where she's at.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting when you're developing characters too. Though, is that some like you said, some they play their strengths may be familiar surroundings, where other ones like you have like the hobbits in the Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. I mean, they have to leave their comfort zone to go and accomplish their mission.
Yeah.
And that's I mean, like I said, it's interesting how you develop characters because one depends upon where your character you want your character to draw their strength from.
Yeah, I mean, like Althea was pretty much ripped out of her comfort zone, wasn't she, Matt? Right?
Pretty much. Actually, I think.
Sorry.
It's from ethics, but I have to say that I don't think she's ever really had a comfort zone. Or at least that's how it seems like right now from what I've been working on for the character in her past. She's just had, I think she might have had a comfort zone as a kid, but when she found out that her parents aren't her real parent, aren't her biological parents, that's when everything goes to hell for her. And there's a bit of bitterness over the fact that she was born and someone didn't want her.
One of the weirdest questions I think I've ever gotten regarding my book is, what is my character's favorite kind of ice cream? Like, I mean, when I develop a character and I develop them very strongly to fit into the story, I never think about what kind of ice cream. Like, I mean, when you guys as creators, do you even think of those kinds of things?
What I wrote into Maeve was that she likes kitties, ponies, video games, indie rock, and sweets.
Okay.
That's what I wrote into her. In fact, I actually I was planning like a sort of planning like a parody pinup with Victor. It's like are you familiar with that Mockingbird cover where she has the shirt that says "Ask me about my feminist agenda"?
Yeah.
I planned a parody of that where Maeve has a shirt. Maeve has a shirt that says "Ask me about my cute agenda," and instead of holding what I assumed was a pina colada because she's underage, so it was just going to be a soda. And so Victor's asking me, "Does she have a favorite soda?" And it's like, I was like beside myself thinking, I don't know. I just wrote in she likes sweets, so I guess any would do.
Yeah, I'd have to say that it's something that I leave for a very last thing.
Yeah, that's stuff afterthought. Although I did end up sort of writing that she hates M&Ms.
Oh, there you go. That is something.
Well, the reason it's sort of it's kind of linked to some teasing she got as a kid.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's
just she's still a kid.
She got stuck with an unfortunate nickname because of her initials, and she just ended up hating M&Ms after that.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever gone that far. I don't think. I mean, that's a plot piece, but just like random questions on what's their favorite food or what's their favorite TV show or what's their favorite these kinds of things. I mean, I don't. It just doesn't dawn on me. I mean, I'm trying to push the story forward, and it's hard to get in unless it's a plot piece, like you said, with your M&Ms and with them making fun of her and that kind of thing. Then I don't really think of it.
I don't really see it as a plot piece. It's just a little bit more of like, it's just more of another piece of character development for her, and like, I mean, like something like that probably wouldn't work for Creek just because it's not important to her character because her development comes from the journey she goes on. Whereas with Maeve, the development kind of comes from learning more about what made her the person she is and how she sort of gets and how she grows from it. It depends on what the character needs.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And with Creek, her journey is like I said before is you're pushing her forward. You're also trying to push her out of her comfort zone, so that she can adapt. And that's what the training and her talking about all of her doubts and those kinds of things are going to be part of the second issue. Is, I mean, she's going to be given all these things as a way to overcome these things that she's going to have to face. And she'll have that's what happened with me was I was given a toolbox of, is what they call it, of stuff that I can reflect back on that helps me deal with some of the issues that I may encounter. I obviously not going to. I obviously have not added the exercise element or the martial arts element that Creek is going to have, but.
Okay. Can we also assume that, like, you can decline to answer this if you want, but considering what a relationship with her mother is, and that her father walked out, it kind of feels to me like Octavius is sort of going to take on sort of a surrogate father role for her.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's what mentors are, really. I mean, they are a paternal figure in some respect, and Octavius will definitely fill that role for her. I do have some stuff buried back about what happened to her father and what may or may not happen with him. But we'll cross that road when we get there. But
yeah. But you would definitely say that aspect of their relationship, is that ever going to come up in the story?
Of course. I mean, that's first of all, you have. I mean, yeah. I mean, he's going to. He takes her under his wing, obviously, and teaches her about what she is and who she's what her destiny is, and her training and these kinds of things. But yeah, he's going to be a paternal figure for sure.
That won't come up so much in how much in change, because I'm like, May's relationship with her parents is more like, you can tell they love her, they're just ill-equipped to handle her. But they genuinely do care about her. It's just she doesn't have a lot of adults in her life that can really relate to her.
Okay.
Yeah.
So she's more of a is it because I guess there's two sides to that story then. Is that the way she thinks it is, or is that the way it actually is?
It's kind of a little of both. The reason why, like I said, something I sort of decided to do with Maeve, and this was something that kind of came from my experience growing up, because my brother was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome when he was 10 years old. And that was kind of something I wrote into Maeve. Like, when she was young, she was diagnosed with autism. And although the way I played out, it's sort of kind of this gray thing where it might be that, but it also could just as well be the fact that she's part Fae. So it doesn't mesh well with her human side.
Oh, gotcha.
So it's like, I'm not going to say which it is one way or the other.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Especially with that's great. A great metaphor for autism, especially when they're so misunderstood.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like, because like my dad kind of was smart about how he handled my brother, because like when he found out my brother had Asperger's, he kind of got this idea from this, like, I think it was an NPC, what did I say, NPC? I meant NBC piece on these conjoined twins who seemed like they were very well adjusted, and they asked their parents why they were that way, and they just said, because we don't treat them any different than we would any other kid. We give them the same expectations. And that's what he did with my brother. He didn't give him any special treatment. He was held to the same expectations my sister and I were, and it kind of turned out for the better for him. But he has told me that that if he could, he'd rather not live with it. And that's kind of a thing I found out with people who have disabilities, that even if it does give them some kind of ability that other people don't have, they'd much rather be normal. And there's a lot of parents who are ill-equipped to handle children who don't have. They're ill-equipped to handle children who have disabilities, just because they were not. Like they just were not shown. They just were not shown that.
Yeah,
that or grow up with it, or like what it's like. I think our one of our friends, like, he told us, like, it's tough being a parent when you can't help your kid.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, with me, my when I was 5 years old, I was diagnosed with a learning disability. Flash forward 32 years, and it turns out I didn't have a learning disability. But I was misdiagnosed, and it turns out that my depression and my anxiety was what this psychologist way back then, this is back in the late 70s, where they didn't have as much as they do now. My depression and anxiety was seen as the disability. So that's some of the things I'm going through right now, and that's another reason why I wanted to write the book about health, to bring awareness, is because, especially with young people, it's because they can't express everything that they need to actually help to get the proper help that they need.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. And it's like when you're that age and you're going through all these changes, and then and then all of a sudden, boom, you're hit with depression. It's like you just don't have any frame of reference for how you're supposed to deal with this, and it's like I said, in my case, like, my depression was linked to a specific event in my life. So it's not something I've struggled with most of my life. Although I'm not gonna lie and say that that my parents' divorce hasn't left some scars on me. I mean, it's like you don't walk away from something like that unscathed. You just don't.
No, especially no.
I was 17 when it happened.
Yeah, but even when you're an adult, depression and divorce still affects adults too. It's a huge event and traumatic event in any person's life, and like you said, you dealt with it when you were really young. So
yeah, hell, even my parents' divorce, I think, took several years off my dad's life with what he had to spend it, and for court fees. Like my dad had to blow his entire savings to pay for it all. He's not going to be retiring.
Yeah.
Although I can't imagine them even if he hadn't. My dad just is not the kind of man who would want to retire anyway. He's like he's a work till you drop sort of man. But yeah, you're right. Like and especially considering that this wasn't a mutual thing that happened either. It was my mom who walked out, and it's just it's traumatic enough for me being 17, watching one of my parents leave, and just imagine what it's like. I can only imagine what it was like for my dad watching his own spouse walk out on him.
Exactly. Somebody he thought was going to be there through thick or thin, like they talked about. So.
Yeah, no, it's like it's supposed to be, and especially considering that I grew up in a Christian household. My dad's an ordained pastor, like for better or for worse, till death do us part. Like, yeah, that's which is also something that kind of plays into Changeling as well. Like growing up in a Christian household, that's something that's part of Maeve, like which people actually found very interesting about her. Like she has this non-Christian heritage and yet has this Christian upbringing. She's got these two sides of her that are sort of playing against the middle. It's gonna be very interesting, like out of that.
Yeah. Is your character going to age during the series?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like she's not going to stay 14 forever. That's part of what her story is. It's her growing up and figuring out her identity.
Something that I found interesting about indie comics is that you can do the aging of the characters. You're not writing characters who belong to a franchise.
I don't know. I mean, like Marvel let Peter Parker grow up.
Did they though?
Well, they did and they didn't.
Figuratively, but
I mean, they did have him grow in a more meaningful ways, like keeping up marriage.
Yeah.
Letting his aunt go.
Yep. But then Joe Quesada said, "Nope. One more day."
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Worst thing ever.
And then Hydra Captain happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, seriously. I still hate Nick Spencer.
I think we all do. I mean, he thinks that bringing back Mary Jane into Peter's life will win him some point. No, fuck him.
It's a kind of a shame that Otley is on that book with him, because I love Otley, but I can't read Spider-Man because Spencer's writing it.
I'm pretty certain there's a nice little curveball down the line that they're going to rip the two apart again.
Yeah, I know. Definitely. I guess
fans all over again, just because for lulz.
Yeah.
That seems really disrespectful, because it seems like Peter Parker is the character that Stan Lee identified with the most, to the point where he was in his 90s, and still writing the Spider-Man newspaper strip.
Yeah, definitely. It's just, but I think Stan's actually gone on record saying that Peter was sort of based off himself as a young man.
Yeah.
Which I have the feeling that Mary Jane is based off his wife.
Possibly. I can also just as easily see Gwen sort of having shades of his wife in there too.
Although, in his memoir, his wife is drawn to look very similar to Mary Jane in her youth.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that up to including the redhead?
Yeah, I believe so.
Wow.
Is that up to the famous quote too? That you hit the jackpot, Tiger?
You know what? I could believe that. I could believe that.
The funny thing is, he says that he very poorly drew a woman that was to be his dream woman, and he actually just met her.
Yeah, I could. If someone told me if someone could tell me that some of those that Mary Jane is more or less just a one-to-one adaptation of his wife, I'd completely believe it. it's hard not to see that, especially like if he related to Peter that much, it's hard not to see how much of his life ended up was basically transplanted into Peter's. Although to be honest, like writing fiction, like there's always going to be some element of autobiography to it because every writer draws from his own experience.
Of course, there's that old saying that you only write what you know.
And in Stephen King's case, you do it again and again and again and again.
Same down.
Yeah, like, why do you think all his books take place in Maine?
That's right. That's
Yep.
Yeah, that's sort of the thing is like what you can. Do you follow a writer named Blake Northcott, Dean?
I don't know.
No, she's really good, but yeah, what she kind of put down is what readers are looking for is they're looking for applicability, not allegory, and so it's like you can sort of take those experiences you've had and you can find some way to sort of translate them in a way that people can relate to them. Like it's not necessarily supposed to be an allegory for any one thing, but it's like something people can relate to, and that's kind of a problem we've seen like with a lot of like the modern Marvel writers is that they seem to be using these books as more like allegories for their own autobiographies. Problem is you only write an autobiography if you're like a super interesting person, and most of these people are not very interesting to begin with.
Yeah, that's I'm not even get started on half the Marvel writers, but
yeah, like
there's just
like Cena Grace putting in gay conversion therapy into Iceman because he supposedly went through it.
Yeah,
it's like why does that belong there? Or like going back to Nick Spencer, him using the Red Skull as an allegory for Donald Trump, which is so fucking ham-fisted.
It just today's writers seem to think that it's better to sound high IQ rather than storytellers.
Well, yeah, it's like it's kind of this Coach Red Pill quote I keep bringing up. They're confusing cleverness with profundity. Like, and there's plenty of cleverness to go around. Like, but what readers want is like they want a writer who understands them, or at least they want to feel like the writer understands them. And
yeah. They want the writer. Yeah, they want the reader to understand them, of course. But
probably one of the best examples. You go on, Dean. Sorry.
Your ego gets too big.
Exactly. Like probably one of the best examples where you can find like a writer that has some understanding of human nature is like in this. It's in Crime and Punishment, and it's when Raskolnikov kills the rich woman, and he's just so overwhelmed with guilt that he asks God to forgive him. And like even if you don't believe in God, you can understand and what he's going through, because like everyone wants to be forgiven, and it's just like.
Well, it's like I mean you always go back to this, but it's like the X-Men. The perfect example is Xavier versus Magneto. I mean, you can see both sides of that situation. I mean, where Magneto wants to teach mutants how to control their powers and these kinds of things, and become examples. But Magneto also wants to protect. He wants to pull mutants closer and protect their abilities, but also when humanity feels threatened, then he wants to lash out. Xavier wants to teach humanity, where Magneto wants to lash out.
Well, the way Magneto sees it is, they're persecuting us. We have to protect ourselves, and we're the superior race, so we have a right to conquer. Or he's got to, and especially considering like that Magneto lived through the Holocaust. So you don't walk away from that without sort of developing a very hardened survival instinct, and it's just
the problem with Magneto lately though is it depends upon who's writing him. I mean, sometimes with Magneto you can actually feel really sympathetic for him, and then other writers they just turn him into he's the leader of this Nazi cult that wants to that they want to become the superior race and they want to take over. And that's I always were drawn towards where they were basically they basically had the same ideals, they just had a different agenda.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, like, I think Magneto he's an example of, you can have a character who does awful things, but you can at least understand why he's doing it.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like, you don't, let me put it, like, you do not have to necessarily make them sympathetic. You don't have to make every character likable, but I think, like, I just dropped my mouse. Okay, so yeah. Because like my philosophy is, as long as I can understand why a character is doing what they're doing, there's something for the audience to connect with, even if they're not necessarily a good person.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the human condition. I mean, we all something that I come up with, or something that some ideals that I may have may conflict with somebody else's. That doesn't mean they're wrong. It comes down to the execution. So where you really go wrong is where it's completely one-sided. Like, you're just portraying like, my side is right, your side is wrong. Like, hey, the other side doesn't necessarily have to be in the right, but you should at least understand why they think the way they do. Exactly, and I think that's what makes a great villain is that you do understand, and you do understand their agenda, and you understand that it's probably the wrong way of doing it, but you understand what their motives are, and that they believe that's the right thing to do. You can have a villain that you can't relate to at all. I mean, and he's the complete opposite of your hero, or you can have a villain who has a shade of gray in them, and then they're probably better for your hero because it makes him doubt himself as well. You can also play that aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of having those polar opposites, it seems like they always have to have the polar opposites, like Batman and Joker. I mean, does anybody ever relate to Joker? I mean,
yeah. Well, to be fair, I don't think you're supposed to.
And that's my point. Is that there are those villains that are extreme opposites, but I also find the ones that are more compelling are the ones that are more gray than versus black and white.
Yeah, definitely. But I think in Joker's case, though, it's just because he has such a colorful personality. It kind of makes up for his lack of humanity.
Yeah, and he's also the completely polar opposite of Batman. Like, I mean,
yeah.
He's always in the bright clothing, and he's always got the giant smile, and Batman never smiles. When Batman smiles, it's freaking creepy. Mm-hmm. But
yeah, or like with Superman and Lex Luthor, whereas like Superman is like he's got all this physical power, but it's such strong moral character. Whereas Lex is he's brilliant, but he's a man who kind of lacks a moral compass.
and he has his own agenda.
Yeah.
Where Superman's an altruist.
Yeah, definitely. Like they're polar opposites in like every way. Because
But also, I also think Lex is in like I'm probably in the minority here, but I actually find Lex more a compelling villain than Joker.
well, yeah, because you can even if you can kind of see a person like Lex Luthor existing in real life. Like Joker could not exist. Like there's nobody's just a mass killer for its own sake, like Joker is. But there are people out who do exist in the real world, like Lex. Like there are people who are that cutthroat and ruthless.
Oh yeah, every day, in all sorts of careers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also like it's just, but like again, it kind of also comes up with that contrast that Lex has. Like he's like, whereas Superman's just born with all that power, he's a self-made man. Everything he has, he got by himself. Like nobody handed him anything.
Yeah,
he just took it.
That's why I constantly keep bugging Superman about being you were born with all those gifts, and I had to earn mine. And he always says that to him, and that you were given all this power and you don't know what to do with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. And it's. Okay, so I mean, how about you guys? Do you guys have anything to add to that?
Not really, no.
Yeah, I think you covered a lot of what I was going to say.
Although, like, Tank, if you don't mind, like talking a little bit about your thing, like, you've got one character in your book series who's like a complete psycho, right?
Yeah, for lack of a better term, my whole idea when I set out for creating villains and bad guys in the story was purely to make a character that you can't sympathize with. My idea behind this one character is purely just balls to the wall, crazy. No redeeming factors whatsoever. And even if in the book she does something that seems kind of redeemable, you just remember back to what the hell she did already in a previous chapter, and then it's going to be like, no, that doesn't balance the scales at all. She's literally just doing everything she does is to her own benefit at the end of the day. Nothing she does ever be because it is due to her being altruistic or trying to be better. It's always just for self-gain.
Yeah. But I mean, like, that's actually kind of interesting though, because like you make a character who just got like no redeeming qualities, no like nothing, but is nothing. But how do you? And that's it's a bit more challenging to make a character like that, but still kind of make them compelling in some way.
Based on her actions, that is where I believe she will be a compelling character, an interesting character, how she interacts. But the fact of the matter is, what I'm aiming for, and I hope I hit the mark, is too many stories these days. You find villains that everybody's trying to, oh no, he's doing this because of XYZ reason. You must feel sorry for him or her. And it's like, why? Why can't you just have somebody like the fucking Terminator again? You know, from the original Terminator from the first movie. Just a compelling, unstoppable bad guy, villain. No, not necessarily unstoppable, but to the point where you don't feel sorry for the damn thing. You actually want them to be taken out.
Yeah, oh yeah, I can definitely say that. It's just like, I mean, like a lot of the old James Bond villains, they were like that. Like they weren't people you were supposed to feel anything towards. You just wanted to see them dead.
You want to see them defeated. That is exactly what I'm aiming for.
I will say that not every villain should be that way. There are some who do have that whole aspect that began through some wrong that was done to them decades ago or back in their childhood. But some are just plain evil.
Yeah, that's true. Definitely true. I mean, like, definitely true. Like, there's, like, I think, like, there was, I remember, like, are you guys from, how familiar are you guys with the Ted Bundy case?
Not very.
Because it was when he was on trial, and the judge said to him, like, "You're a very bright young man. You could have done anything you wanted. What? And you decided instead to be a serial killer." And it's like, and it's just like no remorse on his. There was like no remorse on his face through that whole trial up until the jury passed his sentence, where he exploded and said, "No, not his sentence, his verdict," and he just exploded and said, "Tell the jury they were wrong." It's just like, I guess people like that are just fascinating because you want to just understand like what makes their brain tick. Like, how do you get like that? It's like trying to peel back an onion.
I think also in Bundy's case, he was with his charisma.
He was very charismatic. That was why he was. Yeah, he was able to pretty much talk anyone into doing anything.
Yeah, and that I think was another part of I lost my train of thought.
I lose my train of thought all the time, but yeah, it's like you can sort of make, like, it's kind of, I guess if there's any coda to this train of thought, it's that there's kind of no way, there's like no one right way to make a compelling antagonist or villain. Like, you can have someone who's completely unredeemable and completely unsympathetic if they've at least got personality or charisma to back it up. Because I mean, like, people still like the Joker just not because they can sympathize with him, but just because his personality is just so forceful. So like you just can't help but not pay attention. You can't help but not sort of be kind of drawn to him. Because I mean, even though you can't really relate to him, I mean, he's just got such a magnetic personality.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah. And I know some people are probably related to him also because of his unhinged freedom.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like he just does whatever he wants, and he's just held back by nothing.
Except for the IRS.
Oh, yes. Oh my God, yes. Like, oh yeah, it was an episode in Batman the Animated Series where he found out that he owed a bunch of back taxes, and he said, like, "Batman I can deal with, but the tax man, no."
I just picked up the Blu-ray set yesterday. So I can't wait to go back and revisit that series again.
Oh yeah, Mark Hamill was a great Joker.
Oh yeah, and it's I think it's funny that he was the trickster, but even before that. And
oh yeah, the Flash. Yeah, that's right. There was that live action Flash show that came out a few years before, and did not really last too long though, from what I heard, if I remember correctly.
No, it was only the one season, but it was also on during the Gulf War and against Cosby. So, and in that time slot in those days, yeah, it didn't have a chance in hell. But
yeah. Although, from what I hear, there are people who remember it fondly.
Oh yeah, I mean they got the original actor to dress up in the '90s Flash costume and that Elseworlds crossover they just did here on CW.
Yeah, in fact, like that's even the same actor was playing Barry's dad, wasn't he?
Yeah. They're Guggenheim is a huge fan of that old series. So
Tank has a lot of things to say about Mark Guggenheim.
Not so much, just the fact that every single time when you look at the shows and when there's a lot of drama written, the writer involved was Mark Guggenheim. That is pretty much the extent of it. So when there's unnecessary drama, he was involved. That's pretty much why I don't really like him that much, because he pretty much puts so much unnecessary drama in the shows. But I still watch them. They're still fun. It's just, was this really needed? That's my only thought.
No, I totally get that. I mean, I until they said they were going to, I mean, last year after all the finales, I was saying, okay, I'm done with the Arrowverse, no more. And then they announced Elseworlds, and they announced Batwoman, and they announced this kind of stuff, and I'm going, oh god, now I have to go another season.
Oh yeah. Actually, kind of going back to like sort of melodrama, I think it's kind of unavoidable that in my case, Changeling is going to sort of have those melodramatic moments, but that's just because when you're that age, everything feels like it's a big deal, so it makes sense. Like, do you see that happening sort of with Creek as well? Like more like things seeming like a big deal, or more her just making things a bigger deal than they actually are.
Okay, if you want to do that.
I think the more that the more the audience gets to know her, I mean her depression and anxiety are definitely going to make her trying to fit into this new role very difficult. I mean, it's going to be not only going to be difficult on her, but also difficult on Ock's patients, because you can't. I mean, you can't do that with a teenager. I mean, they're gonna rebel, and they're going to push away, and they're not going to really want to follow this whole have this particular thing, right? So she's going to have she's going to have that, definitely that time of doubt and that time of I can't do this, and I can't this isn't for me. I just want to go home. I just want to go home and put my headphones on and stay in bed, so it's yeah, I'm definitely going to have that with Creek. I think that you're going to have that rebellion.
Well, that's par for the course for teenagers. That's just like teenagers. Although I think although kind of what I'm sort of getting the vibe at, it's more like because of the situation she finds herself in, she's going to be sort of forced to grow up a lot faster than she probably should. Like,
yeah, and that's going to be another strain on her and her depression. I mean, when you're depressed, you don't want to do anything, and now she has to do all that stuff. So she's going to be overwhelmed, and she's going to have doubts, and she's going to have to fight through all that. So that's why you're going to have. I have to bring in a confidant, and I also have to bring in other plot devices to help her push forward, because she needs to. She also needs to realize that these people are affecting her life, and they're going to also affect other. They're also affecting other people's lives.
Yeah, and if you don't mind that, and answering this question is like, is it kind of like a case where where Octavius he doesn't have children, so he's sort of there's there's going to be like a lot of instances where he's kind of at a loss as to how he deals with her, and he's just, I guess for lack of a better term, he's treating her like a soldier when he should be treating her like a kid.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a quote in the book where he says, "I'm a scholar, not a soldier," I mean, he's basically he has that he's very book oriented and very very fact oriented and very particular and articulate and all this kind of stuff, where she's the polar opposite of that. And so they're gonna have the butting of heads, you know. So he's gonna be more he might even be, he won't be necessarily a confidant for her, but he can also be a something that grounds her and helps, and that way that her, if when she eventually, when he actually has to start training her and all this kind of stuff, he'll be able to convey to her more knowledge. But he'll also going to have to show her on the other side that the reason I'm showing you this is that so that it will help you. For Creek, it's going to be, for Creek, Ock's going to be, in the beginning, going to be like Mr. Miyagi. You know, he's going to be, you know, wax on, wax off. Why the hell am I doing this? And she's going to throw her arms up, and she can run away, and she can put her headphones on and ignore him or whatever. And but then eventually, as the training goes on, she'll start to see, oh, okay, this plays into this, or
there was a point to all. There was a point.
Exactly.
Yeah, like, yeah, that I kind of had a similar character for Maeve at one point. Sort of. I say kind of, sort of. Like one of the main characters is a puka named Gavin. It's a shape-shifting fairy that can turn into an animal. In his case, he turns into a cat. Initially, he was going to be much older, but then I kind of realized like that sort of came with unfortunate implications. And so, especially with the plot line I sort of had for Maeve's story, so I kind of aged him down to her, to be around her age, like probably like a year older than her at most. Yeah, which is a little better. And then it kind of actually it's actually ended up working out a lot better, because instead of him being more like in playing a mentor role, it's more like he plays like he was the first person she actually formed a connection with, and about the first person she probably could say was a friend, because she's never really had one before. Yeah. Even though, like, you sort of pick up pretty quickly that he's probably not the best person for her to have a friendship with.
Oh, okay.
Let me put it this way: when Maeve makes a mistake, is going to make mistakes, and it's because she's young, naive, and doesn't know better. And that's kind of part of what her story is. And whereas with that, like, she has to grow up by learning from her mistakes, whereas it seems like in Creek's case, she has to grow up because she has to.
Yeah, and that's I think that the big I think the biggest connection between Creek and Ock is going to be is that they're also both thrust upon this journey and thrust upon this change. Like, Ock doesn't want to be a trainer, doesn't want to be pushing her, and doesn't want to be you know, taking care of a teenager. But he has to, because he has this calling. The calling was kind of thrust upon him. So they eventually connect over that, as they connect over the calling.
Yeah, So it's more like the things they go through together that sort of built the bond between them, and they learn to trust each other, and then like a sort of form this surrogate parent-child relationship.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, no, you can't do anything else other than that.
Pretty much, but I mean, and you know what, for Creek, I mean, to be at that age, it's important that she can. It's important for her to find an adult that she feels she can depend on.
Exactly, and that's another thing too in her life, is that she had. I mean, so many people have taken her for granted, or not seen that she's not seen her potential, or haven't given her a chance, or these kinds of things. And now that she has this one person that she can actually rely on, then yeah, that's a huge opening for her. So.
Okay. So do you have anything else you can say about Tainted other than, I mean, because I put the links to both your Twitter and the Kickstarter in the description. Is that pretty much the two places you would direct people?
Yeah, the Kickstarter and the Creeks World on Facebook would be the two things. Yeah, or
yeah,
Twitter and Twitter, of course. Yeah, of course.
I'm gonna have to look up the Facebook later and add that back in the description. But yeah, do you have anything else you can say about Tainted? And because like it's past noon, I haven't eaten anything yet since I woke up.
I know it's 1 o'clock. It's 1 o'clock here too, and I haven't had lunch yet either. So
yeah. All right. So like I guess Dean, how about you just wrap up by saying just give us all the places to find Tainted and or yourself and whatever, and we'll call it good here.
Okay, great, thanks. Please check out Tainted on Kickstarter and Twitter, and I hope that you guys all enjoy the book. And the first the people who contribute to it between now and the first 1,000 will receive the first 4 pages of the second book when it's available.
Yeah, and it's got right now, guys. If you go on the Kickstarter, it is just 300 shy of hitting the 1,000 mark, and it's still got 46 days to go.
That's right.
Yeah. And Kickstarter ends on Sunday, February 3rd at just shy of 7 a.m. PST. Yeah, I looked at that. I looked that up.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
All right. So thanks for having you on, Dean. And I guess that's like we should have you back on when you've made a little bit more progress, or at least gotten the Kickstarter funded, so we can do like a follow up.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Sure. It'd be great to come back. So.
All right. All right.
Thank you.
And I will hit the button.
Later,
now.